Eleanor Turner had just turned 72 when she received a call from her longtime friend, Martha Jenkins. The two had met back in their college days at the University of Michigan and had stayed close throughout life, despite the ups and downs that came with marriages, raising children, and now dealing with aging. Martha had recently moved to a new retirement community in Arizona, while Eleanor remained in Ohio in the same small town she had lived in for over 40 years. "Martha, you sound like you've been running a marathon." Eleanor chuckled over the phone. "Oh, Ellie, I just came from my doctor's office, and I'm telling you, I'm done. I think I've had more poking and prodding this year than I did giving birth to all three of my kids," Martha groaned. Eleanor raised an eyebrow as she rocked gently in the chair on her front porch. "What are you talking about now?" "They've scheduled me for a whole bunch of tests again. Bone scans, colonoscopy, a full-body MRI, the works. And you know what? I'm starting to think some of it might not even be necessary." This caught Eleanor's attention. She herself had gone in for a routine visit a few weeks ago and left with a similar list of suggested screenings. Her doctor, a fresh-faced internist named Dr. Kimball, was thorough, maybe too thorough. But Eleanor had never questioned it. She trusted professionals. After all, medicine had come a long way. Martha went on. "I met this new geriatrician in the community center, Dr. Felicia Blake. She's been giving these weekly talks about healthcare for seniors. And guess what her message is? That not all routine medical exams are necessary once you pass 70. Eleanor sat up straighter. "Wait, what do you mean?" She broke it down so simply, Ellie. There are a handful of tests that were designed with younger or middle-aged adults in mind, and after a certain age, they not only lose their effectiveness, they can actually cause more harm than good. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. Her mind reeled with questions. Could it be true? Could all those appointments, scans, and procedures really be unnecessary or even risky for someone her age? The next day, she decided to call her daughter, Rebecca. Rebecca was a nurse practitioner at a large hospital in Chicago and had always been her go-to person for anything medical. "Mom, you know I'm always going to support what keeps you healthy," Rebecca said gently. "But honestly, Martha isn't wrong. The medical community has started reevaluating a lot of standard tests for seniors." Why haven't I heard this before? It's a complicated conversation, and doctors sometimes feel pressured to do more, to cover their bases or avoid lawsuits. But yes, there are some tests that may no longer be beneficial after 70 or 75, depending on your overall health. Rebecca offered to send Eleanor a few medical articles from trustworthy sources and suggested she talk to a geriatric specialist if she wanted a second opinion beyond Dr. Kimball. A week later, Eleanor had an appointment with Dr. Blake, the very same Dr. Martha had mentioned. Tall, with silver-streaked black hair and a reassuring smile, Dr. Blake welcomed her into the consultation room like an old friend. "I'm glad you came in, Eleanor. The truth is, we've been overscreening healthy seniors for decades. It's only recently that major medical boards have started issuing guidelines saying, 'Wait a second, maybe this isn't helping anymore.' But aren't tests supposed to catch problems early?" Eleanor asked, her brow furrowed. "Yes, but that depends on the type of test and the person's life expectancy. For example, some cancers grow so slowly that you'll likely never feel the effects of them. Yet the treatments can be painful, stressful, and even dangerous." Eleanor nodded slowly. "Let me give you an example," Dr. Blake continued. "Take colonoscopies. After 75, unless there's a specific concern or family history, routine colonoscopies are no longer recommended by the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force. The risks from sedation, bleeding, or perforation actually outweigh the potential benefit of finding something that may not even develop into a serious issue." Eleanor left that appointment with her mind buzzing, but her heart strangely at ease. Over the next few weeks, she dove into research, asked questions at her local senior center, and even attended one of Dr. Blake's health talks. She was amazed by how many of her peers had never been told they could opt out of certain tests. Martha shared her own experience during one of their regular coffee chats over video call. "I had a mammogram scheduled last month," she said. "But after talking to Dr. Blake and reading the new guidelines, I canceled it. I haven't had any symptoms, no family history, and you know what? I feel relieved." Eleanor began reviewing her own upcoming appointments. She had a bone density test next month, a pap smear the month after, and a recommendation to get another abdominal ultrasound. "Why are they still scheduling these?" she asked Rebecca one evening. "It's partly habit, partly fear. But if you're in good health and don't have specific concerns, it's okay to say no, Mom. You have a right to decline." So Eleanor did. She called Dr. Kimball's office, respectfully canceled a few appointments, and scheduled a sit-down to discuss a new approach. To her surprise, Dr. Kimball wasn't offended. In fact, he seemed relieved. "I'll admit, Eleanor, a lot of patients your age are taking a more proactive stance in managing their healthcare preferences," he said with a grin. "Let's look at what actually makes sense for you." In the months that followed, Eleanor felt lighter, not just physically, but mentally. No more waiting rooms, no more fasting before tests, no more anxious weeks waiting for results that rarely showed anything concerning. Instead, she began focusing on preventive wellness, walking daily, eating nutritious foods, meditating, and getting adequate sleep. She also joined a Tai Chi class and rekindled her love for watercolor painting. Her days felt more purposeful now that they weren't chopped up by unnecessary doctor visits. One afternoon, she got a letter in the mail from the local senior advocacy group. It announced a community forum titled, "Choosing Wisely, A Senior's Guide to Smart Health Decisions." Eleanor smiled. She knew exactly what she had to do. She called Martha. Guess who just signed up to speak at the next health panel? Martha gasped. "Ellie, you?" "Yep. I think it's time we told more folks like us that it's okay to ask questions, and sometimes it's even better to say no." The day of the panel, Eleanor wore her favorite teal blouse and stood confidently at the podium in front of a group of about 60 seniors. She shared her story, not to criticize medicine, but to advocate for informed decision-making. "I'm not here to tell you what's right for you," she said, looking into the eyes of men and women who had all felt the weight of age in different ways. "I'm just here to tell you what I learned. And that is, at 72, I finally realized that good health isn't about endless tests. It's about living with clarity, calm, and confidence." The applause that followed wasn't raucous. It was warm, appreciative, and deeply understanding. Eleanor stepped down from the stage feeling more fulfilled than she had in years. From then on, whenever someone asked her what the secret to graceful aging was, she smiled and replied, "Ask questions. Say no when it makes sense. And remember, life after 70 isn't about just surviving. It's about choosing how you